Hello, welcome to this edition of the Xmo Strata online news programme. I'm Natalie Taylor. As always, the programme is accompanied by an online newsletter. And if you'd prefer to read your news rather than watch it, you can find that on the website. Now, if you've visited the website in the last week or so, you'll have noticed some radical changes, bringing it bang up to date. IT controller Jack Martin oversaw the new site, and it's much more than just a redesign. There are functional changes too. The site is easier for visitors to use and navigate, and is optimised for every type of device, including laptops, tablets and phones. Browsing on mobile devices is simple, and the site is now fully integrated with social networks to facilitate the sharing of articles and other communications. There are mouse-over tooltips for industry-specific words and jargon which not everyone may understand. The site contains over 400 safety bulletins issued by the company, and they are searchable, shareable and can be viewed easily on mobile devices. Managing Director Steve Martin said the company had a much bigger website than most companies of the same size. The site is home to the Xmo MAN project management system and is used daily as a central operational tool, which is why it is critical to keep it up to date. But the size of the site is also partly dictated by the company's wish to share safety lessons with a wider audience, in line with best practice in the safety industry. If you haven't done so already, you can try out the new site for yourself at xmostrata.com. On a related theme, you can now follow Xmo Strata on Twitter at Xmo Strata, and several of the company's management team have also become active on LinkedIn, so feel free to find your company contacts in the LinkedIn search bar and connect with them. Talking of those safety bulletins, the 400th bulletin appeared on the site recently and sparked some recollections of the early days. The bulletins often cover situations in which Xmo Strata or other companies have fallen short in their adherence to health and safety. They are brutally frank, and blushes aren't spared. The details of the incident are given as fully as possible. The objective is to ensure that lessons can be learned and future accidents avoided. Xmo Strata isn't the only company doing this. The vast majority of well-directed companies operating in high-risk environments now do something similar. But managers remember when the practice was not so widespread, and some of Xmo Strata's less sophisticated competitors thought the company had scored an own goal by highlighting its shortcomings to customers. Some even told customers that they themselves didn't have any safety incidents to report. Well, thank goodness the world has moved on, and we all know better now. The bulletins are a major part of the site, and managers say that everyone who contributed to them in the past decade, even those who've now retired or moved on to other companies, should feel a sense of achievement. Falling shop signs became a bit of a theme during the recent winter weather. You may recall we've covered previous stories on this topic. The online newsletter contains details of a story in the Argus newspaper in Sussex involving a shop sign falling on an 88-year-old widow. The incident happened in Bognor Regis and involved a Phones for You sign. As always in stories of this type, managers stress that nothing they say should be taken as an indication of culpability on anyone's part. It's the job of the courts to allocate blame. But whatever the reason for a falling sign, even if no one is found to be at fault, the company believes it should always serve as a reminder that the sign company and sign owner should do everything possible to prevent it. That means correct installation in the first place and then regular maintenance. Director Kate Parmentier said it was important to recognise that a sign is not a fix and forget item. Any materials will decay over time, particularly if they are subjected to extreme weather, and sign maintenance is an important part of a building owner's responsibilities. There are references to several other recent stories about falling signs in the newsletter. On a similar theme, the British Sign and Graphics Association newsletter reported that two unnamed sign companies in southern England had been required to pay intervention fines after visits from officers from the Health and Safety Executive. One is reported to have involved an unannounced site visit when the officer discovered that a barrier on a scaffold tower was too low. If inspectors find a material breach, they can assist the offending company to put matters right, or they can take enforcement action. But in either case, the executive is entitled to levy fees to cover the costs involved in the visit, even if it was unannounced and unrequested. Of course, there are also risks associated with vehicles hitting signs and overhead canopies. In fact, the issue seems to be particularly acute with forecourt canopies. It's not always the case that vehicle impact risk could have been predicted. A risk is sometimes identified when, for example, the traffic patterns in the forecourt are changed for some reason. Even if there is no resulting injury, the cost of canopy impacts can be eye-watering. Xmo Strata crews are developing a particular expertise in reshaping canopies to minimise or eliminate these risks. The crews have taken low-resolution pictures of some of the projects. You can probably see those more clearly on the newsletter. The work is being done on some sites where impacts have actually occurred, and on others where impacts have been identified as a possibility. The work is regarded as cost-saving and is more effective than other methods, such as warning signs. We're pretty good, but we'd like to be better. That's the message to Xmo Strata customers from managers. Customers are asked to rate their experience of the company after jobs are complete. The ratings are very poor, satisfactory, good and excellent. The crews are scored on their safety, the quality of work and their courtesy. The scheme started on November the 8th, 2007, and since then the company has clocked up 25,000 excellent ratings. The crews didn't score any very poor scores, although there was one poor score in one section. There are also a few satisfactory scores, which the company doesn't regard as remotely satisfactory. Managers say they are pleased with the 25,000 excellent ratings, but they won't be resting on their laurels, and low scores are always investigated. Now, the environmental challenges facing forecourt owners and managers are considerable, so how do companies manage it on a large scale? We spoke to Martin Rackley of AECOM about how the Global Alliance manages these issues for a client as big as BP.
Always looking for contractors to not just keep the product in the pipe, but to report near misses, minor spills, and also we're looking at their own fuel consumptions, trying to get a bit more cleverer and smarter about the amount of time people come to sites, trying to get as much work done on one time when we're on sites to reduce the environmental impact. And we're also looking at different mechanisms, different safety measures continually. Probably our biggest fear environmentally is when we have a major leak, catastrophic leak from a tank that went into a local watercourse, or just as serious, a leak from the site and cause vehicles to skid. Diesel on a road surface is nearly as bad as ice. So those two things environmentally really worry me. And also the other big huge risk with leaks is fire and explosion. So there's a very close crossover between environmental risks and pure safety risks. It's hard to isolate the two.
And there'll be more from Martin Rackley on this topic in a later edition. We talk a lot in these programmes about Xmo Strata's commitment to training. Well, the latest initiative is interactive training on the Xmo Man project management system. The starting point is a toolbox talk shared by Gilbarco Vidaroot. The system relies on employees watching a video of a safety incident, in this case video supplied by Gilbarco Vidaroot, then answering questions on the lessons learnt. Now here's the trick. The responses are recorded on Xmo Man, so the company has a record of how well informed employees are about the issues covered in the exercise. That data can be used to inform decisions about any further training that may be required. Not only that, but there's an added twist, which is designed to deliver value for the customers. The system provides hard, traceable proof that the training took place. Customers need to show that they are meeting their obligations for training under the Health and Safety at Work Act, and this is one way in which they can demonstrate that. Bosses say that people have different learning styles, and interactive training is just a different way to get important messages across and to ensure that they are retained. When the training sessions are completed by employees and subcontractors, reports on each session will be filed by Xmo Strata, both for its own records and those of the company. If you want to check this out for yourself, there's a link in the online newsletter. It takes around 11 minutes to do the training session, and anyone completing the questions will receive a copy of the same type of report. Go on, you know you want to. Many of our viewers will be very familiar with the company's extensive video vault. It's widely used by other companies for health and safety training. The videos are all protected by copyright to prevent online piracy, but they're made available free of charge to anyone, including competitors, using them for genuine health and safety training. We told you in a previous edition that AXA Insurance had taken up that offer and was using the reverse syncing video. Now the steel giant Tata is doing the same. If you haven't seen the video, it's worth having a look. Its biggest audience is those attending health and safety events, but even on YouTube it's had over 1,000 viewers. You can go direct to the video vault on the website or follow the link in the newsletter. Finally, a reminder for those who need to know that CE marking for all construction products is becoming mandatory. It comes into force for fabricated structural steelwork, such as the hot-rolled steel and gutters extensively used in forecourt canopy construction. That's in July of this year, a few weeks from now. Xmo Strata's own steel supplier has taken on a compliance manager specifically to manage these issues. But there's anecdotal evidence that not all suppliers are quite so on the ball. Be warned, if your supplier doesn't conform, you don't either, so best to check it out with them. Well, that's it for this edition of the programme. There's lots more in the newsletter, including stories about awards and special mentions for the company's safety strategy from Johnson Controls and ExxonMobil. There's a reminder about the safety issues surrounding tyre depth and other stories, and a little mention for the crews who fitted over 500 sign panels relating to a loyalty card promotion, and others who put up 1,500 posters and banners on over 500 filling stations in 12 days. Well done to them. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed the programme. We'll be back in July with another edition. In the meanwhile, please stay safe.